Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Rooted Home podcast. We are excited to talk about a new topic that some of you have written to us and more specifically Lauren
Mhm.
asking about. So I'm going to let her introduce kind of what we're going to be talking about based on some of the questions that have come in. I think it'll be a fruitful conversation.
Yeah, so there have been a lot of questions about a lot of different angles and a lot of different situations, but the main theme is what do you do when you're not on the same page as your spouse? How do you handle that? And how do you walk that out as a couple? So, um, a lot of those questions come from moms, but we have had some from dads or husbands. So,
Yeah,
wives and husbands.
that's that's going to happen a lot in a lot of areas of life. So I think there's some good overarching principles we can talk about that help frame how you approach the topic, how you approach your spouse. We've done it plenty of times wrong and poorly, sometimes
hmm
done it well, but we're still learning. So if I was setting the stage for trying to think about if there's one spouse who is wanting to approach the other spouse about something that they're not on the same page about, there's a couple of different categories that I would be thinking about. The first category is who each one of you is, because there's differences in gender and there's differences in your role within marriage.
hmm
And that all affects how you should go about approaching someone if there needs to be a discussion about something you're not on the same page about. And then the second category is what's the nature of the thing that you're not on the same page about? Is it a scriptural issue that you feel like you're not obeying the Lord? Is it a wisdom issue? Is it a personal preference issue? So all of those things also factor into how you should approach the topic and how tightly you should be holding on to your perspective.
hmm
Because if there is something in the word that you're trying to bring to your spouse, that is something that you should both take seriously and take with a lot of weight. And if it's something that's just a personal preference of yours, well, the other person's personal preference may be opposite, and there's not a right or wrong there. So you have to learn how to talk through that. So those are the two big categories in my mind of if you're not on the same page with your spouse, one, who are you and who are they? Gender, your role, all that stuff within the marriage, and what is the nature of what you're on the same page about.
So let's talk about the gender piece of it first,
Hmm.
because I think that there's a few different elements to that. Um, can you explain what you mean by that? Like the
Men and women are different.
I know, and everybody here is watching. We all know we're different, but like, why does that even matter? I guess to the conversation, like why? I mean, I would agree that it matters, but I want you to explain it because you
Sure.
articulate well.
So with men and women being different, how we are communicated with matters,
Mhm.
especially by our spouse. So in the scriptures, when we see Paul commanding husbands to love their wives and wives to respect their husbands, those are very integral things to how men and women and husbands and wives, how we're wired, how God made us.
Mhm.
So a husband that does not feel respected by his wife, that's not good. That's not
No.
a healthy thing. And that should be something that the wife aspires to do,
Mhm.
is to show her husband respect and that she does respect him. And conversely, the husband should be endeavoring to ensure that his wife feels loved and cared for, and that he, in his leading the home, is trying to look out for her needs and her best interest and her protection.
Mhm.
And I do think there's wisdom in what Doug Wilson has said a lot, that a lot of times God commands to our weaknesses. It's not a man's strength, stereotypically speaking, to be very warm and loving and thoughtful towards his wife all the time. And it's not natural a lot of times to the wife to respect and submit to her husband. And some of that goes all the way back to the fall, where he
Mhm.
talks about the wife's Eve, your desires are going to be against your husband or for your husband in a way that means to rule over and domineer over him when he's supposed to be the leader, you're supposed to be the helper. So when you're bringing something to, let's say that you're the wife and you're bringing something to your husband you should be bringing it to someone that you respect. Ideally, someone you respect, that you know, but that you also know will hear you because he loves you.
Mhm.
So that would be a good, healthy starting point,
Yeah.
is if the husband and wife have that dynamic going on, to where the husband feels respected, and when his wife is bringing something to him, he doesn't feel like he's being nagged. There's not
Mhm.
a history of that, and he feels, but he also loves his wife and knows that his wife is a helper because he needs a helper
Yeah.
and needs her perspective. So I could stop there
Okay.
for now and then see what your thoughts are on what I've said so far, if you have anything to add to that.
I do. Yeah. So I think just to kind of speak to what you've already mentioned, flesh it out from my perspective, I, if a woman has something, I think in general, there are two sides of the spectrum, two extremes that women can fall into. And one side is clamming up and holding it all in and just um, either to not, for whatever reason, sometimes it's because you think that's what submission looks like. And it's not. I'll just go ahead and say that. The other side of that, and we can speak to that too, but like the other side of the spectrum is to be a nagger and somebody who's, yeah,
Insistent on what you want.
yeah, and disrespectful
Really
and
needle your husband till you get it.
yeah, and neither are conducive to a healthy marriage. Um, so kind of to speak to do you think it'd be fine to just to speak to the extremes a little bit?
Mhm.
I think it would be helpful. I think,
Yeah, I think when you speak to the extremes, people are going to see some flavor of themselves
yeah,
in that, and that can be helpful.
yeah. So I think in some Christian circles, there can be this tendency to think that biblical submission is just be quiet and your husband um, makes all the decisions and like has no input from his wife. Like he's the one steering the ship 100%. There's no input. There's no discussion. That's not, that's not, it's just a false sense of, it's not a right understanding of biblical submission. Because in the Bible, if you look at the whole counsel of scripture, men, I wouldn't say that that's a biblical
Yeah,
submission.
so I would bounce off of that and say the man is ultimately responsible
Yeah,
for the leading of his family,
100%.
ultimately responsible for making the decisions, but it's a foolish man that doesn't embrace the counsel of the helper
Yeah.
that God has given him. So
Yes.
that's just being unwise if you don't embrace that. And ultimately, the wife does need to respect when her husband makes the ultimate decision
Right.
if they're not on the same page. But ideally, he still would have shown that he values her opinion, even if he happens to disagree on a
Right.
particular topic.
Yeah. And we as women we ought to grow into increasingly being a wise counselor and a source, like somebody, your confidant, someone that you can bounce things off of and you walk through life together where your help,
It's
like
a
you already said it,
blessing
we're a
to have
helper.
a wise wife. That
Yes.
is a massive blessing to have a wise wife that
And
you can take counsel with.
And scripture speaks to that. The wise woman builds her house. What husband and the heart of her husband trusts in her. He doesn't trust in a woman. The kind of woman who is a trustworthy woman is not a woman who just never speaks her concerns or like if she has a preference is too afraid to talk about it.
She just carries it with meekness,
Right.
humility,
Right.
and respect and love for her husband.
Yeah.
And that's what's fueling it. Like, there shouldn't be selfish ambition or selfish desire fueling why you're not on the same page or why you're bringing something to your husband.
What do you
I
mean
would
by that?
say. Well, if you're a good loving wife, you're bringing something to your husband that's going to help him and help the family, and it's not about you. Like, it's not just you want something done because you do. Like, you're bringing something that is valuable to your husband
Yeah.
and valuable for the family, and it's your perspective, your wisdom. He's probably at work a lot of time, doesn't know everything that's happening in the house. There could be all sorts of things that you can bring that are valuable, but it's not just because of your own self-interest that you're bringing it.
Well, let's talk to that a little bit, because I do think that there is a place for personal preferences whenever,
Mhm.
as long as you're expressing those in an unselfish and respectful way. Because it's not, I think the point is that women, we can and we ought to talk with our husbands, because if we don't, the command of God to men and husbands to live with their wives in an understanding way, they can't do that. So
Husband's not going to know what your preference is.
yeah, so how can he understand you if you don't talk about it, you know?
I think we're starting to drift into the second category, so I want to pull us back a little bit into just talking about gender and roles
Mm-hmm.
when we're doing these things. So,
Oh.
when we're not on the same page. So, we've talked some about the differences between men and women here that's important. So, men need to know that their husbands, if the wife is doing something or doing something with homeschooling or doing something with the kids that he doesn't think should be done a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
bring that to your wife warmly and lovingly. And with the sense of, this is the wife that you love and your heart does trust in her. But hey, let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a better way we can do this. Or maybe let's consider this and talk about it with you and not just tell
Rule.
talk, because you should be discipling all the members of your family as a husband. And so if there's a reason you want something in your home to change, your wife's not going to benefit from your perspective and wisdom if you're just telling her what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of explaining to her, scripturally, I see this, and so I think we should do this way instead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting into the second category now too, but I'm trying to focus on just, communicating warmly with your wife when you're on the same page, and then conversely, the wife showing respect to her husband. And that goes into both gender and role, because in the home, the man is the head of the home,
Mm-hmm.
is a leader of the home. And so that role and responsibility should be reflected in the
Yeah.
respect that's shown too. So
Can
by
I
showing respect, you get both. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to speak to that, like, story form, because
Sure.
I think that's a big part of our story. Was I did not have a box for the, like, significance of that. You know, what passage of scripture is that? Wives, respect your husbands. Husbands, love your wives. Is that Ephesians?
I want to say it's Ephesians 5, but I
Okay.
have to double check.
Okay. Well, anyway, we heard it at some point a few years ago, fleshed out in a way that was really helpful. And I just had no idea how much that would bless you and cause you to blossom and grow into even a stronger, more confident leader of our home, as I showed you respect. And that looks like asking you questions. Not so there was kind of this tendency before, I guess, that I didn't mean to adopt, but I saw this pattern, and so I adopted this pattern of just immediately going to a bunch of women with my thoughts and my questions, and not coming to you as, like, my husband.
Treated kind of other women as your primary disciplers.
Right. And that was just not, I mean, not saying don't go talk, like, I still talk and confide with my friends, but I would almost look to them as my primary confidant rather than you. And so that took away a lot from you, I think. And so sorry, I feel like I've got something. It was short-lived, and I'm so grateful that the Lord showed us a better way, because I'm telling you what, like, it was just so great to see how much it strengthened our marriage a lot, because I think, were always really good at showing me love and care. And yeah, I mean,
I don't know if I would say that.
I mean, we're growing you're just a very kind and wonderful husband. And you have grown in a lot of ways, 100%. But I do think that there was a big shift in our marriage whenever I realized that I wasn't showing you the respect that I'm called to show you. And so once I did, and I started trying to break that habit of immediately going to the ladies, and going to you and asking you for your input, not only was it bolstering you up, but it also was freeing for me because I was like, I don't have to listen to all these opinions. Those are not my leaders. I don't have to like weigh this person and this person and this person, this woman that I look up to, like, she's not my husband, you know? So it was just really freeing to know that, you know, we talk, we seek counsel where needed, but ultimately at the end of the day, you are responsible for our home before God, and I can lean into you. And it's just a very freeing place to be that you're the opinion that really matters ultimately. You know, I mean, obviously, God is the ultimate. But my husband, you submit to God. I submit to you. Our children submit to both of us. It's just when that is functioning in a good, healthy way, it just works out really well.
I love when you say the word freedom because people don't view a lot of times God's commands as the way to truly live in freedom. Like God's ways allow us to flourish
Hmm.
because his words are the words of life. His
Hmm.
paths are the paths of life. He has not set up this hierarchy in the home and in the world for restraint.
Or
It
oppression.
is it is how we flourish.
Yeah.
And we've personally seen that over and over again.
Hmm.
That when we follow those commands that the world would call oppressive or restraining, like no, like you spiral into death when you don't follow the path that God has. When you follow the saying that freedom is the exact right word,
Hmm.
the freedom that's in Christ and in following the words of life. So that's good.
Yeah. And of course, people get weird and they, you know, go off their rocker and to the wrong extreme, you know. I think sometimes people can be burned by what they thought submission looked like, kind of like what we were talking about
Yeah, very
earlier.
poor environment.
Yeah, it's unhealthy, not how God calls us to walk, basically, in
Yeah.
an oppressive marriage. But it's a very freeing, flourishing marriage. Not saying we don't have it all together, we're not perfect, and we're still growing. I'm growing in my learning to respect you. You're growing and learning to live with me in an understanding way and showing me love and care. But yeah, it's been God's ways are the best ways. Um, so all that to say, when we disagree or we're not on the same page about something, um,
That's the first thing to keep in mind is
mhm,
as it needs to be discussed.
show
Don't
respect.
don't revert back to it's just so easy to fall into I want things this way. Why aren't things this way? Why doesn't he or she do things this way?
Mhm,
Why do I have to keep telling him or her I don't want it that way? You know,
mhm,
it's so easy
mhm,
to fall into those ways of thinking as opposed to orienting yourself properly first.
mhm.
So that's kind of the first big category. And do you have anything else? Well, I know we're going to blend the categories some, but I feel good about kind of moving on to how you hold different topics that you may not be on the same page about.
Yeah, and I guess we could probably I was thinking it'd be good to give some examples as we talk through some of those
Sure.
probably. So if you wanna move on, that's fine.
Sure. So when it comes to, okay, what's the nature of the thing you're not on the same page about? Is it a biblical matter? Is it a wisdom matter? Is it just a personal preference?
Mhm,
That also affects how the conversation should go and how you should hold things and how you should approach it. To be frank, one of the things I loved about when me and Lauren were dating is that we got into some conversations where we turned to the scriptures about what it had to say, and I saw that Lauren was someone that did that, and so I felt like, "Oh, and if we get married, this is a good picture of what things will look like, and that's awesome." Like,
mhm,
we're gonna be able to let the word be the judge between us because we both turn to the word and
mhm,
respect it. And so if it is a biblical anything that the scriptures speak to this because the scriptures are sufficient for life and godliness, um, that you should turn to the word together
mhm,
on the topic, because you are each other's strongest discipling influences. You want your home to be filled with the word, your family to be filled with the word, as Deuteronomy talks about. And so that's just a wonderful opportunity to turn to the word together and consider it, look at it, even if it's not sitting there with the Bible together. Like you can both agree, like, hey, we both need to look into this when we're having our Bible time, and we'll come back in a couple days and talk about it. But the point is, it's a wonderful opportunity to go to the Word together and stay on the paths of life and freedom that we were just talking about.
mhm.
If it's a truly biblical issue.
Like a theological difference or
Mhm.
something big. I mean, We haven't, I don't feel like we've had really big, well, we've had some. I started getting into a mindset and you saved me from that mindset, but it wasn't really theological. It was just a big worldview issue.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you were very patient with me. That's probably not a bad example. You were really patient.
About it if you want to.
It was hard. Well, I know. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to be controversial today. Anyway,
Today.
not today. So I was very pulled towards and sympathetic to a worldview that I don't believe is biblical. And you saw that I was going down this path and being pulled by my heartstrings.
Mhm.
And
Which is very normal.
yeah,
Husbands, very normal.
live with your wife in an
Live with your
understanding
wife in an
way.
understanding
She's
way.
pulled by her heartstrings.
Keep her away from bad influences, but also talk with her gently.
Well, what do you mean, keep her away from bad influences?
Like, don't let, if you know your wife is listening to fringe nonsense that's pulling it at your heartstrings, that's probably not good spiritual food for
So
your wife.
talk to her about it. Yeah, because obviously.
Defend your wife from those things, because those are insidious, can be insidious things.
Yeah, defend your wife. I think that's a better way to put it, because, yeah.
Protect your wife from the serpent that's trying to get her.
Try to talk about it and say, hey, this is not very helpful, and here's why, and be persuasive. Because I do think that there was a way where I was getting sucked into listening to certain things or reading certain things that were really unhelpful, and you were very patient with me. We had, I mean, you probably didn't feel it sometimes. We had hours probably of conversations, of like heated conversations at points where we were kind of going back and forth and like, yeah, but this, and then you were trying to explain, I thought you were just being one way, and anyway, so you just faithfully, patiently talked with me, and then the Lord, thankfully, I don't know what shifted, but something shifted at some point. So, but it required conversations, and I felt very strongly about one thing, and you were just helping me think through that. You were helping me think through it, because I was thinking through it, but I know that I was really being yanked around in some ways, being manipulated, honestly, by the media.
Yeah. So I would say that the goal there, if you're thinking about it as a husband, is you want your wife to grow and mature in knowledge and discernment. She doesn't do that if you're just say, no, this is the way it is. And like, you want your wife to grow and flourish and be able to discern good from evil and have her senses trained, all of those things. And so just saying no and not having conversations about why is not the path to do that. So as the husband, you can feel free to, when you see it in the word, plant your feet firmly there, and the family won't, drift or anything as long as your feet are firmly planted there. But be patient as you talk to your wife and live with her in an understanding way, and continue to wash her with the word, like the Bible says to. And if she's a God-fearing woman, she'll come around and she'll see the truth.
Yeah.
If you're right.
If you're right. I was going to say, like, sometimes the guy's not always right.
As long as you're planted in the word and not your own preferences, that's a safe place to be.
Yeah, as long as you're both planted on the word, you're both fearing God, and you're both seeking the Lord together, that is a very solid place to be. But let's talk about when that isn't the case, because sometimes the woman might be the one who is walking with the Lord and her husband is not a believer, or vice versa. And so I think there have been a few women who have talked to what?
I have a snarky comment. I'm going to hide it and save it later.
Okay. Oh, but the snark is fun. You entertained. Okay. Anyway, so there have been several questions about what?
Go on. Just go on.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't even know. Okay. So anyway, we should probably talk to that a little bit too, because there are a lot of people who have spoken to that and asked questions about it, and they're frustrated and don't really know how to walk through that. So
when the woman is biblically convicted about something,
about phones, let's just say, for example, screen time, like husband is sucked into his phone, and I'm just saying he could be a believer. Like I think that's a different topic, but regardless, Christian or non-Christian, if you see something...
Let's just focus on Christian couples.
Okay. Christian couples, you see your husband doing something or you see your wife doing something that you think is not helpful at all to the family, it's probably a wisdom issue. This Bible doesn't explicitly talk about screen time. How do you work through that together? Are you about to get snarky? Okay,
Well, there's this very specific scriptural example that I think women should follow, and we're grateful to have it. So you have the example of Esther and how she approached the king, right?
yeah.
So if something like this is happening, the wife needs to fast for 3 days,
Oh my goodness, stop it.
and then when you approach your husband, ask him to come to a feast,
Okay.
and then make your request.
Okay.
So walk through all of those. This is very prescriptive. I think the book of Esther is very prescriptive for how wives should approach their husband.
Okay. Yeah, no, he's joking if you
I am
can't tell. Okay.
joking.
Although food does help.
Full belly.
Full belly, make sure you're rested.
So I, in all seriousness, when it comes to things like that, the passage in First Corinthians where it talks about wives um, winning their husbands over by the way that they're living, he is talking about unbelieving husbands in that case, but there's a very helpful principle there for all wives of living in a way that shows the joy of the Lord in maybe an area that your husband is not walking in the joy of the Lord in that area, but your influence on him pulls him towards that over time and softens him. Just like the husband's supposed to be patient in the previous example we gave and talking with his wife through things if there's a deception issue or something going on. Similarly, if the husband is given to an unhelpful habit, not like, a massively sinful habit, but one that's
Unhelpful.
unhelpful, one that's not causing growth, what?
Nothing.
Um, or one that's hindering things about the family, hindering him, whatever it happens to be. The phone's a good example. If there's like way too like an addiction to screen time, there are biblical principles about something like that. Like, if you're not able to master yourself, you're mastered by. If
The
you're
thing.
mastered by something, you shouldn't be.
Mhm.
You should only be mastered by the Lord. But the way that if there's some gentle conversation happening and there's an unyielding spirit about it, the way to go about it is faithfully pray for your husband and then live your life in that way of
Mhm.
joy and freedom because you're not addicted to screen time
Mhm.
and what that looks like. And he's living with someone who's not addicted to screen time and
Mhm.
sees the fruit of that life over time, just like it can win over an unbelieving husband.
Mhm.
If your husband's a believer, there's even more likelihood that he'll be won over by you behaving that way.
Mhm.
So that's, I guess, first thing I would say is I think that principle in First Corinthians 7 is very helpful.
About winning your husband without a word.
Winning your husband without a word and prayerfully keeping him in prayer about
Mhm.
that topic continually because you want to see your husband free. Like I think about things I pray for you that like I want Lauren to be free
Mhm.
from
XYZ.
X, Y, or Z that I see in her life. And so have that prayer for your husband. You want your husband to be free of that thing. You want to see him flourish. Don't be a frustrated nagger about it. Like have the mindset of I know my husband will flourish if he doesn't have this weight slowing it down.
Yeah, that's good.
So that for that specific situation, that's how I would think about it.
And again, I would say without a word doesn't mean never talk about it. Like, have the conversation respectfully, not when you're irritated. I think I've said this before on the podcast, but if you're irritated, you're not qualified to have a conversation like that. If you can help it. If it's just a matter of talking through a situation, it's probably best when you're not heated, especially if it's something that could be confrontational, where you're not on the same page. Respectfully and joyfully and kindly, just have a low-key, lighthearted conversation about something. Bring it up, talk through it. You're not on the same page. Okay, that's going to happen. Voice your preferences, like we've talked about. And then, like you said, yes, just be patient. Pray. I don't want to rehash what you said. Just live it out. So,
And to jump off of that, I don't want to say also that there's not a place for clearly telling and showing your husband how detrimental you think something is and
Yeah.
being serious about
Hmm.
it. If it's
That's
something
true.
you're seeing that is a real problem and is causing you a lot of angst and a lot of hurt, he needs to you do need to prayerfully, make sure that you're not just being self-centered in some way about your preferences, but if it's genuinely a problem that is causing a lot of problems, don't it's just a wisdom question, and we can't tell you what to do situation to situation, but you don't want to just stuff that
Yeah,
either.
that's
So
true.
there is a place for
Like sobered conversations, maybe.
sobered conversations of this is very serious. And then
Hmm.
once you've brought it up and clearly laid it out, then don't become a nag and keep bringing it up,
Hmm.
every
Hmm.
other day. But um, there's plenty of issues in marriage that can become an impasse because of this isn't just a little paper cut issue. This is hurting more than and we need to talk about it. And you both pray about it together, fast, seek counsel. So yes, always approach respectfully, but don't and with meekness, but don't shy away from this is a very serious problem
Hmm.
in my eyes.
Hmm.
And if he doesn't think so, hopefully there's scripture that can be pointed to
Yeah.
as to why it's not a serious issue. And if it is a serious issue, hopefully there's scripture that can be pointed to that shows why it is a serious issue. But um, I just wanted to leave that also because I don't want either men or women to feel like living with someone else with patience and meekness means, kind of like you said earlier, not sharing really how you feel, sharing your
Hmm.
preferences, but also if something is really bothering you, as long as it's shared in the proper way, like you should tell your spouse, this is really bothering me.
Hmm.
So respecting your husband doesn't mean stuffing that when you feel that way.
Yeah. And on the other side of the coin, the person who's receiving it, we are not perfect at this by any stretch of the imagination, but it's always good as the person receiving that feedback to not respond right away,
Yeah.
to say, try to get more, try to don't let yourself make statements. If you can, ask questions, say thank you, just say you'll pray about it, you'll think about it, and talk about it later because everybody's got their own perspective. It's just, it takes some time. Sometimes, a lot of times, it takes prayer, especially if you're not seeing something the same way, or if there really is an issue and you've not seen it. It's going to be kind of shocking at first. And the default might be defensiveness or to try to explain away or whatever. And so it's just good habit and good practice to try to refrain from um, pushback if your spouse is bringing something to you.
Yeah. If your spouse is wrong when they brought something to you,
Uh,
they'll still be wrong in 2 or 3 days.
right. So you can wait.
So you can wait.
But
There's no need for you to push back in the moment, and that can even be a good practice for the spouse bringing something is, "Hey, honey, there's something that's genuinely bothering me. I'd like to share it with you later. Would you be willing to please just listen to everything I have to say
mhm,
and not be cutting me off, not having to feel like they need to respond to everything, listen to all of it and consider it prayerfully. And I'm happy to listen to you, to what you think about it, but I really need you to hear me all the way through,
mhm,
not interrupt me, and then consider what I have to say without jumping to defensiveness. I think that that's also a helpful way to prep someone for that conversation as opposed to just all of a sudden, hey, I've got something I
mhm.
really need to talk with you about that's really serious. Oh,
And then boom.
I was doing some dishes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of what it's like whenever you're at the park with the kids. And it's always helpful, whether at the park or we're doing something else, that if they're immersed in some fun, it's very shocking and it's hard for them to obey parents. They still have to if you just spring it on them. Okay, guys, all done. Like it's
Yeah.
helpful to their little hearts if you give them some forewarning.
5 minutes.
In 5 minutes, we're going to leave the park and you need to come when we say it's time to go, you need to say, "Yes, mommy," and you come right away. There's no arguing or anything like that. So I think just giving a warning helps prepare the heart of the child, and it helps prepare the heart of the spouse. Like, okay, yes, I need to remember, don't argue. uh, Take it in, be humble, be meek, and be willing to receive this person who loves you. So,
There's no need to induce whiplash
no.
unnecessarily.
Yeah, it's helpful to prepare if you can.
So some of this has been more geared towards heavier topics, probably biblical topics,
Mhm.
wisdom related topics. And remember, there's a beautiful growth process that's happening there when you're talking to your spouse about these things because you're learning things together, you're going to the word together. It's challenging sometimes and hard, but it's a wonderful part of sanctification also. And you come through with a stronger relationship, you yourself mature a little bit more.
Mhm.
So don't shy away from those things.
Yeah.
Your marriage covenant is very strong and can handle hard conversations. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal. When it comes to more preferential type stuff, hopefully conversations like that can be a little more lighthearted and just
Yeah.
like getting to know you, understanding you better, and not so weighty.
Yeah.
And the trap there is, don't hold your preferences tightly.
Mhm.
You've married someone that's different than you. You both try and respect each other's preferences and accommodate them to bless the person. Like, if you have a preference about something or something you wanna do, like, it makes me happy to, like, "Oh, like, Lord would love that." And
Mhm.
so, there's also joy in that too as a
Mhm.
spouse of, like, if the spouse is different from you, knowing the differences, knowing something that blesses them that's different than you, like, you can find joy in doing it because of how happy it makes them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If it's easy, sometimes it's a habit thing, if like we talked about the shoes in the basket on another podcast, just as an example. Like if there's a habit thing, of course you would love to make bless me if you know that there's something that I like for stewarding the home. I think that this would be helpful. Whatever example, shoes in the basket instead of beside the basket. You love to bless me, but it's not always something that's on the forefront of your mind.
Mhm.
So
Takes
somehow
intentionality.
yeah, yeah, it takes intentionality. So again, I think have the lighthearted conversation. Don't nag and don't be frustrated. Your husband's not out to get you or your wife's not out to get you
Right.
if
They
there's
love you.
forgetfulness there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gotta be patient, live with each other in an understanding way. Accommodate each other where you can. You're preferring one another. Biblically, that's just we're
That's how Christians are supposed to act,
yeah.
prefer one another.
Yeah. So I think when you're both doing that, then it works beautifully. And if you're the only one doing that for whatever reason, then do it before the Lord and know that He's pleased with you. And
And it's still the path of life for
it
sure.
is, even if it doesn't feel like it. It feels like death a lot of times if you're dying to yourself,
Yeah.
you know, um, or having to be patient is hard, but the Lord's using that to sanctify you and to make you more holy. And whenever we're when we are more holy, we are more joyful and happy. Yeah. So,
And giving into selfishness and bitterness because the other person is not doing things they ought to be doing is just going to make you a worse person and
yeah,
a less happy person over time. So
like a dripping faucet.
freely continue to do what the Lord's called you to do,
Hmm.
even when the other person's not. And
Hmm.
hopefully over time, as you're praying for them, that'll change.
Yeah. It's a win-win
Hmm.
situation. So, anything else?
I think we covered a lot of good, hopefully helpful principles in this kind of dynamic when there's this challenge going on.
Hmm.
Um, I guess the only other thing I would say is if there's something that you want done is still, or that you paint an aspiring picture where you can
Hmm.
of what if instead of this we did this and
Hmm.
point towards the possible positive outcomes and fruit as opposed to a negative. When you do this, this is like the outcome and stuff. Like, oh, I want to try to avoid that. Like
Hmm.
a positive aspirational mindset is always better. Where we want to be looking further up and further in. We want to
Hmm.
be looking towards the beautiful growth and joy and happiness we have in Christ. And so, if wherever it's possible to just, hey, what if we change this? I really think if we change this or did this, this is the result we could see.
Mhm.
Painting it that way, it also keeps things from starting adversarial in
Mhm.
the sense of, I think when you do this or we do this, this is the negative outcome. Well, I don't think so. Like
Mm.
that can go bad versus like, so where possible, paint the beautiful positive outcome of pursuing the thing that's on your heart or mind that you're
Mhm.
talking about.
Mhm. Inspire
Inspire, it's good.
rather than poke and
Yeah.
critique all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good, babe.
I don't have anything else big
Okay.
in mind. I feel like I had the categories I wanted to talk about, and hopefully that's helpful to people if they think like me,
Yeah.
like a nice little engineer.
I'm helped by your categories.
Good.
Helps my spaghetti brain.
Mhm. Pull
um,
those noodles apart a little bit.
yeah, it's helpful. Especially during newborn season. What was I going to say? I don't remember. So I guess we can just be done.
That sounds good.
Okay.
If this was helpful, let us know. If you have any follow-up questions, let us know in the comments, email us, whatever you want to do. Like this episode is, again, inspired by a lot of feedback and questions Lauren and I have received. So feel free to follow up with anything that's helpful that you'd like to hear more about.
Yeah. And just know that communication situations and difficulties is very normal.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged by it if uh, don't be alarmed. This is something that every married couple has to work through, and there's joy on the other side of it. So keep plodding along.
I could say that even more positive.
Go ahead.
So I think I said this to you recently, like having hard conversations is part of what makes a good marriage.
That's
Like
true.
you don't, it's
Yes.
like working out. You don't get in shape and stronger and fit without the hard workouts.
Mhm.
And you want to get stronger and
Mhm.
fit. You don't have a naturally robust, strong, resilient marriage conflict free. That doesn't, if you want that, joyfully receive the conflicts that happen, like know that the marriage you want, the growth of the marriage that you want is through good communication and open communication and learning to communicate well
Mhm.
with each other. So anyone who's pursuing a good, robust marriage is on the same path as you.
Yeah. And learning is a process
Yeah,
for everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a happy, robust marriage without these things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, don't think otherwise. Don't believe a lie that that's the case.
Yeah. Keep moving forward. Well,
All right.
thank you so much for being here today, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys. See you.